Are there any skills that you think are underappreciated in classes as a whole that shooters should be learning that aren't?
Well, I think there's, I mean, honestly, like the shooting as a whole, because I've been teaching for about 15 years.
Okay.
I'll preface that with not teaching correctly for 15 years, but I've been teaching for 15 years.
Everyone's trying to get better. I hear you, man. I
Yeah.
get you there.
Because like you just don't know what you don't know,
Mhm.
right? And it was never like nefarious in an intent. It's just like if you're not exposed to certain things and you don't understand certain things, you just keep repeating what you think is um, correct, right? And a lot of that has to do with where you surround yourself. So for a very long portion of my shooting journey, I didn't leave the LE military shooting world. I wasn't interested in competition at all. It had no allure to me.
And you're
Um,
already probably better than most of them anyway.
yeah, so that and that's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Because you start to like I don't want to say believe your own hype, but you start to validate that your process is working.
Hmm.
Um, One thing that I did realize though, where I knew something was off, is because I was running a range. I was responsible for like 600 guys for that region, and I would shoot every day, unlimited ammo. I
Okay,
would shoot,
none of this.
yeah, I would shoot 400 rounds a day, right?
Okay.
And the only thing I actually got better at was weapons handling. I didn't actually get better at shooting, right? So it's because I didn't understand the process, right? It was just trying to learn through brute force without understanding what I should be paying attention to and looking for, and then that was just dangerous enough to hook up a couple times, and that was just enough to confuse you to think you're doing stuff or you're on the right track, right?
Sure.
Shoot something 10 times, hook up two or three, and you're like, oh yeah, dude, I'm onto something. But you're not paying attention to core principles, so you have really no clue what made that successful or not, you know?
Okay. I'm with
Um,
you.
and that was like of I knew enough to know that there was stuff missing. I just didn't have the resources in the environment that I was in to help me with that.
Okay.
And I don't even know how I ended up in the. I don't remember how I ended up into the practical shooting space, but somehow I ended up there. Um, and that's when shooting changed for me, and that's when my understanding of shooting developed. And then just through hard work and hundreds of thousands of rounds, um, I have my approach to it, and I have my way of layering and breaking it apart. Because I think a lot of people uh, are coming at it from my lens of how we were trained. You know, so like I can resonate with that because I was trained the same way
Sure.
and understood what it took to break that, and understand why it was pushed certain ways. So it's pretty easy to have talking points to combat all that. Especially when they're like, "Well, how do I get my guys to do this?" Uh, all of those particular things. I
That
don't think
makes
I answered
sense.
your question at all, Joel. What was the first question?
No, I think you're fine. Just any skills that you think are
Oh,
underappreciated.
so yeah, like I said, I think things are getting a lot better. I think the visual connection to a target um, is definitely underappreciated. Um, I can pretty much say, like, at least now in my shooting, it's all visual.
I
Like,
agree.
like everything else is pretty much subconscious. It's do I have the discipline to pick small spots quickly, maintain that, not get sucked into the dot. Um, and when I fail, it starts there, right? Doesn't mean I don't pressure change, doesn't mean I don't push on the gun, but it's usually some type of visual mistake
I agree.
that leads me to try to correct something that becomes then physical. But the root cause of the problem was visual. Does that make sense?
It happens a lot. Yes, I agree with you
Yeah.
completely. You're going to hit where you look. And if
Yes.
you look at places you don't want to look, bullets are going to go there.
Yes.
Whether you mean to or
Yeah.
not.
So I would say, just with seeing the space, I think people really they don't give the respect to that because I really feel like now, for me at my level in shooting, that's the only thing that I really think about when I'm shooting. Like when I'm like, hey, I'm going to shoot this array, all I'm really telling myself is like pick small spots. Everything else is running subconscious,
Mhm.
um, and have the discipline to like get off it when I need to get off it, stay on it just long enough to stay on it, and then be efficient in the transitions and stuff. But really, all of that is visually driven. for
Mhm.
me. So the visual component, I think, is definitely underdeveloped, largely in the industry. And I mean, it's talked a lot about like in our circles,
Yeah, but
but I think,
in cops, it's not where it's like
yeah,
conventional training is like while you reload, you should be looking up at the threat and not looking down. Then you're like, then you wonder why you have a 5 second reload time or something, or maybe
yep,
6 seconds.
yeah,
So no, I mean I agree. For the largest part of the community, I agree with you about vision.
yeah. That would say I would probably and honestly, that was one of my biggest takeaways. Like that was like when I realized what real target focus was
Mhm.
and how refined that needed to be. Because you could be target focused, but be way too expanded. You know,
Sure.
um,
Or you could
like
be
how
front sight focused, looking at the
yeah,
wrong spot too.
yep. So like really understanding what that looks like, and that's why we shoot so many rounds in my classes because like you can say it the most perfect way possible. It doesn't mean anything till a student actually is able to recreate it
I agree.
and see it, and that requires a lot of ammo,
Yeah.
and back of the line coaching.
Yeah.
Hey, try
Uh,
this, try that, pay attention to this.
are there any skills that you think are overstated as being important? So conventional wisdom is it's really, really important, but you don't think it is. If
Yeah.
not, it's okay. I'm just curious.
So I don't want to say it's not important. I think it's not important for most people to develop their shooting, and it's going to be trigger press.
Ooh, all right.
People are going to lose their fucking minds on this.
Okay.
Um, I believe trigger press is introduced a correct trigger press and different shooting strategies with the way you press the trigger is introduced entirely too early in most people's shooting.
So
And what
let's
I
talk
found
about
is,
it. You mean like so there's like prep and press where I like touch the
yep,
face of the trigger, I pull a little bit, I do more aiming, and then I pull the rest.
yep,
Maybe some you like ride the reset, so don't release your finger. Then
yep,
some you let your finger fly way off the trigger, right? Like
yep,
that kind of stuff, right?
yes. I don't even in most of my courses, we don't even really talk about trigger press, except that I was like, I just want you to smash the shit out of that. Right? When you're done pressing it, I want you to get off it
Hmm.
immediately, and I want you to smash it again for however many rounds that we're shooting. Because I feel like the biggest problem is people start to introduce a more skillful manipulation of the trigger, which does help with deviating the sights. Right? Like I'm not going to argue that it doesn't, especially in a lower developed shooter.
Uh-huh.
That is a quick way to give them a return on their investment.
Prep and press absolutely will do that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. But all I did do was put a band aid on their grip. And then as soon as they shoot fast, it all falls apart. So
That'd be the
it's just
smartest
my,
thing you've said so far. I
yeah.
like that. I agree with you completely.
So I think trigger, like I'll be honest, like I just started playing with trigger press um, like a year and a half ago, 2 years, maybe. Once I got into the practical space, everything was smashing the trigger because I wanted to constantly validate and test my grip. Because in theory, and I understand we're not vices, right? But if I grip that gun in a matter like a vice, no matter how I press that trigger, it won't deviate the sights.
Hmm.
I understand humans are not vices, right?
Sure.
But my goal is to make that grip as much as a vice as I can. So no matter how I press that trigger, I'll still maintain accountable shots and accurate. And for a defensive purposes, um, most shootings look like that. So your guys are smashing on the trigger, and they're unsuccessful because they don't understand correct grip, right? And how
Sure.
to build a durable, consistent grip and be able to smash on a trigger like that and maintain accountability. So then it becomes in the law enforcement world, it's like, well, that's not possible, right? Stop smashing the trigger, stop slapping the trigger. You always heard. Hell, man, I said that to fucking people. Like I
Sure.
literally said that dumb shit. Um, and I'm not even embarrassed about it. It's just part of the journey.
It was
Like,
what
like
you were doing the best you could do at the time.
yeah, like that was what was fed to me from guys that were better than me, and I thought that was correct, right? As your journey progresses, I found out that that's not really the contributing factor. Can that help at a higher level? Yes. Does it assist with execution? Yes, right? But it's not the root cause of the problem, right? If I keep a durable, consistent grip, no matter how I press that trigger, the sight will maintain in that position. Now, the more aggressive that I press the trigger, the more likely that I will be to influence that gun,
Okay.
right?
I'm with you.
But I want people to not introduce that trigger pressing because I really want them validating what a good grip looks like. One, because it'll pay huge dividends in having a good grip. Two, for a law enforcement capacity, it's most likely the way you're going to press the trigger in a confrontation, and you need to understand how to grip a pistol in that manner. So, to answer your question, I think trigger press is introduced too early, and I think it's done to give students a quick return on their investment, which it does do.
Mhm.
But I believe it's counterproductive, and I'm not about really trying. My goal is to help you, not coddle you, right?
True.
We talk about that in class, and I tell guys like, "Hey, man, like, I understand there's a correct way to press a trigger. Today's not that fucking day. Like, we are going to smash triggers. We are going to make it hard on ourselves because the goal is to figure out grip and vision. Those are the two main things that I focus on. Um, and the reason why I focus on that is because it's done the most for me in my shooting.
Mhm.
Yes, there's other stuff, but that is like the two main building blocks
Yeah, I
that
agree with you.
I feel like take a lot of time to develop. And it doesn't get developed if you're not, it doesn't get overdeveloped if you're not smashing on the trigger. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I agree with you.
Trigger press.
Trigger
That's my answer.
press. Well, it's like, yeah, just waste time too. What percentage of your classes are static shooting marksmanship compared to moving your feet while you shoot? You have like you think you should always be moving, never be moving, or half 50-50? What do you think?
So, a large portion of my classes are static, and that's because the core function of a lot of the classes in my demographic that I'm getting is to develop solid grip and understanding of visual connection to the target. And
Mhm.
I think that needs to be isolated, and we don't need to complicate it with moving.
Mhm.
My pistol mastery course has movement in it, a bunch of movement in it, but the other two courses has very limited movement. It's pretty much um, understanding how to grip a pistol, shoot very aggressive, pick small spots, heavy round counts, a lot of target transitions,
Sure.
right? Um, but you're not moving your feet. I believe currently, subject to change, that is the way to go about isolating that skill without complicating it. Now, I get it. People do need to move. Environments are dynamic. But I believe, from my personal training and experience, that adding movement to it doesn't really, especially in like a real world application, doesn't make it that difficult if you really understand how to grip a pistol and pick small spots and kind of disconnect the gun. And you get a lot of that with transitioning and stuff like that. The movement does add another layer to it, but it doesn't become this huge block to move if you have the framework of understanding what you're trying to do. Because if you understand how to grip a pistol and not put tension into it and push it around, by just moving, you learned a lot of that static, right? Um, and then adding the movement, yes, it'll take some time to kind of figure out how to move your body where it's not so abrupt.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't think that's for most people, especially law enforcement. That should be introduced too early because they really need to figure out just durable, consistent grips and how to pick small spots and understand predictive shooting for a training strategy. And it could be an engagement strategy as well, depending on the difficulty of the target and the distance. I know people lose their mind about that, but it totally can.
Take your word for it. Yeah, it makes sense.
Depending on what is required and the distance you are from that guy, we need to put maximum firepower on that individual as quickly and accurate as possible. And I mean, you just watch videos; they're shooting predictive. They're just not capable of shooting predictive.
Yeah.
Like they're smashing on triggers and shooting very fast. They just don't understand how to be successful at that.
Well, it's because they did prep and press all day while they're at the flat range, bruh.
Yeah, exactly. And then real life and stress gets in there, and when your life's on the line, like I need to get ahead of this power curve as quick as possible. That requires me to smash on a trigger and shoot really fast, but I haven't developed the skills to actually be successful at that.
Sure.
So I would say my baseline course, performance course, are uh, baseline definitely static. Performance has a little bit of movement, and like the introduction to movement drills are bar hops and track DA,
Mhm.
or a little bit of like running into position, you know. and
Mhm.
then settling into that position and then shooting aggressively. Um, Very basic, nothing crazy. And then pistol mastery has a lot of shooting out of position, shooting into position, uh, figuring out little nuances how to move aggressively lateral, shooting through ports, things like that.
Okay. I like it. What's the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome in your shooting, if any?
Oh god, dude, my whole life is a fucking obstacle in shooting.
Dude, give me both.
Like
I
I said,
started out
dude.
at D class.
Yeah. Nothing. Like I guess I came out okay. I think I started out at. I think I was able to make B class. Um, at the gate by like the skin of my teeth. It was like, what's B, 60%?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes, I think I was able to scrape that out. Actually, because once I switched to carry optics, I made B class out the gate. My first couple matches was open class with the leg cast, so like
That would
they
have
were
been.
horrible runs. I mean, we can go look it up on practice score. I don't remember what it was. I remember it wasn't impressive,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Um, but I mean, like I said, dude, like I would say, I mean, to this day, it's still visual discipline, right? And I don't even want to say it's like visual connection because the connection starts. It's just, do you have the discipline to maintain that throughout the entire shot string when those volleys get really long and aggressive, and you start really stretching the distance? So like your 25-yard bill drills, your 30-yard bill drills, right? Like, do I have the discipline throughout that shot string to? I'll usually start refined and small, but does it stay that way throughout the shot string?
Sure.
Right. So that, um, I mean, I don't think even like just like grip, right? Like, I don't think you ever outgrow trying to figure out
Yeah,
the perfect, the perfect recipe for that, right? Like,
gotta
that's
try to
always
work
a
on it
constant
too.
trying to make that better. Um, Biggest struggles, I would say one of the biggest struggles right now for me at my current skill level would be more efficient entries and exits out of positions. Um, that definitely needs work without a doubt. So I'm focusing more on, getting into position where I can shoot sooner, right? Getting into position in a manner and to the right spot where I can start pre-aiming sooner and uh, start pressing that trigger while I'm entering into position, not waiting to settle into position.
Sure.
So, and that's very dependent on the array, like what that looks like. So, you know, you could do my little micro drills that I set up, and like those I have no problem doing because they're pre-scripted micro drills that I've done a bazillion times, right? So all of them are easy to enter into position and shoot aggressively because I have those particular spots worked out. Um, it's just building more bandwidth to be able to pick any spot I want and enter into any position that I want efficiently.
Yeah, I
And
like
that,
it.
to me, honestly, that just takes time and experience. There's no way to shortcut that.
I agree. What about your process for dealing with pressure, whether it be for match or class demo? I don't know that it is, but I don't
Yeah,
have any real world experience, so I'm not saying like knowing you're getting ready to like you're
yeah,
making ready to go jump in a chopper, knowing you're going to get into it. But like if it's a class or a match, most people get amped up on some level. Do you have
yeah.
a process for ramping yourself up, calming you down, keeping you calm, handshaking, any of that stuff you want to talk about?
Um, I think for the real world side, um, I don't feel stressed about that because it's kind of one of those things like you either prepared or you're not, and you also understand that like there's nothing you can do to change. Like it's going to be whatever it's going to be, and even if you do everything correct, it could still just not be your day. So I don't. I'm sure I did in the beginning, and it was. I guess the stressors in the beginning was more of like you don't want to let the team down, you don't want to make mistakes, and I think a lot of that comes down to just not understanding the entire process or understanding like what we're doing like so deeply where you're still it's not subconscious, right? Like
Mhm.
making decisions on the fly, understanding where you need to be, how to support this guy, reading the problem ahead of you really quickly and making correct decisions. um yeah, that probably stressed me out, but the only way you could get better with that is introducing yourself more and more into it, and then it starts to calm down, and then you get to a certain point where you're just like, all right, man, like it just is what it is, and I'm going to read the problem, make the best decision I can, and wherever that falls, it falls. I get more nervous um, in things that I feel like I can control, which would be like a match,
Sure.
right? Especially because there's like some type of onus on you put on yourself of like, you look at it, you're like, I am very capable of doing this,
Hmm.
like very well. Um, and then, you know, not doing it well, uh, then plays in your head for the next thing, you
Hmm.
know? And then I kind of got to a point of just being like, all right, I'm going to develop just like a ready procedure, of like how I load the gun, how I press check the gun, what I look for, like pre aim on the target, give it a good smash real quick when the gun's dry, make sure that gun feels good in my hand,
Hmm.
you know, don't overdo it, right? Um, and then just holster up and then just kind of streamline what I'm thinking about. I had to teach myself not to think about too much,
Okay.
right? And not think about things that I was worried about. Like if I was worried about like take a classifier, right? It's like, all right, I know I can fucking blaze this, but that fucking reload's gonna be hit or miss, right? Like not thinking about the reload while I'm doing the shooting, just do everything in the moment and then focus on at that given moment what you need to focus on and then get back to the shooting. So being able to compartmentalize my bandwidth at that given time to be like,
Sure.
yep, right now is a shooting problem. Okay, now's a reload problem. Okay, now it's back to a shooting problem. You
Sure.
know, having the maturity to be able to like separate those things in the moment for the best result. And I think that just comes with maturity and exposure of doing that. And I mean, I don't want to say like I still don't fuck that shit up. I still do. you
Everyone
know,
gets pressure. No, I get it. I was just curious
yeah.
how you think of
Um,
the
but
process. You
I would say that, and then like in a class, like when I'm teaching, I don't really. In the beginning, I felt pressure because I felt like I needed to be flawless,
Mhm.
and then once I came to the realization that like that was never going to happen, that relieved kind of a lot of pressure and be like, yeah, man, like I'm not here to trick anybody. I'm human. I make mistakes. I do believe I'm a very good shooter. I do believe I can help a lot of people. Um, but in that, especially with the way I teach, there's a lot of exploratory training. And the way I teach is, like especially when you're teaching cops, right? Like to break them out of what's comfortable and to be exploratory, they have to feel comfortable, right? So kind of the best way that I found is I make myself shoot at uncomfortable paces, right?
Okay.
So when I make mistakes, we talk about those mistakes. And I do it because, like, hey, man, like, I'm going to ask you to be uncomfortable. I'm going to lift up my skirt and show you what uncomfortable looks for me. Now, it may be drastically different skill levels, right? And that's irrelevant. It's just this is what uncomfortable looks like for me. And the correlation there is it's the same problems for you that it is for me. It just happens at a different speed, a different distance, right? And the beauty of that is you have the same corrective measures no matter what your skill level is.
Hmm.
It comes down to the same core principles: maintaining visual discipline, maintaining a durable, consistent grip throughout the shot string, not putting tension into the gun, right? And
Sure.
that just presents itself at different speeds and different distances for different people.
Hmm.
So I lift up my skirt and I'm like, hey guys, like there's going to be a lot of failure today. There should be a lot of failure today. If there's not failure, then you're not pushing yourself. And I even go back and say, like, it's not actually failure, right?
No, you're just
It's not
learning.
failure if you can tie cause and effect, right? As long as we're tying cause and effect to every round, that's a win, man, right? Yep,
Mhm.
that was fucked up, and this is what I did, right? And in the beginning, it's difficult to tie cause and effect, but as we're training in that uncomfortable realm, not uncontrolled, but uncomfortable, right? It'll start to slow down, and you'll start to be able to tie cause and effect, and everything's a win in class. Like if you can tie cause and effect.
Sure.
Now we need to remember what was the positive stuff and what led to that result, and how do we build that to be more consistent, right? So I tier my demos. We talked about this in a class, and I do it for many reasons, right? Like one, people need to see stuff. I feel like in slow motion to like really understand because some of the arrays can be a little bit more difficult. you know. And not, I shouldn't say every demo does this because some stuff's pretty, like if it's like draw, shoot a bill drill, it's like we don't need to really, break that apart too much. But some of the different blending drills and layering, right? Um, we'll do it nice and slow, and then we'll talk about the specific things that are going on while I'm shooting that very slow. So say we're doing like your crisscross drill, right? Two to the A zone on the left target, the large A zone, crisscross to the right target to the head box, down to the right A zone, back off to the left head box, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Mhm. Yep, yep, yep.
Right. So when I'm doing that slow demo, I'm talking about like the key things that are going to build success, like confirmation levels, application, right? Not letting the gun return to specific spots, watching how aggressive I come out of that head box back down to that A zone, and then quickly releasing off that A zone, getting back to the head box to show, to take more confirmation. Then we do demo pace, which is, I would say, something that I know I can do on demand, but still pretty spicy,
Okay.
right? And then I do exploratory. So the goal is to hook up. It's just I'm going to be pushing myself at 110 like maximum capability, where
Okay.
it's likely that I will make a mistake, and that's the training zone, right? So then, if I make a mistake in that, we talk about what I believe at that given moment was the catalyst for making that mistake,
Okay.
and I do that because that helps guys tie cause and effect. And we talk about later, like, well, what's the solution for that? Well, it's not slow down; it's do it correctly. And what I
Mhm.
did incorrectly was got sloppy on the vision here, pushed on the gun, whatever it may be, right? We
Yeah.
talk about those nuances and that slowing down, although it may give you a better result, it doesn't actually fix the root cause. It just hides it and then presents itself as soon as you pick back up again. So if that particular amount of tension creeps up at that speed, it can only be fixed at that speed
Hmm.
if you want to desensitize yourself to it, right? So yes, if I slow down 2/10, 3/10, whatever it is for the drill, that might not be enough for my skill level to make me feel uncomfortable. But when I feel uncomfortable, that's when the things start to present themselves, right? And then
Sure.
getting guys to understand that, like, that's the training zone. I'm still able to process what's going on, but I'm uncomfortable where it's not subconscious, on demand, perfect execution. And that's where I want you to live. And I want you to do everything you can to tie cause and effect. And then when you tie cause and effect, to do everything you can to correct that behavior. And it might not happen in that given sequence, but we're building an understanding of what's really causing the problem. And I think that's kind of what lacks. And I know it lacked with me for a long time. Um, People don't really understand what's actually the root cause of the problem. And it's actually very simple. Okay, I missed that, Joel.
No, I agree with you.
Yep. So I think just kind of dumbing down shooting, really teaching guys what's important and what to focus on, tying cause and effect. And I think through the tiered demos, um, it gives guys a really good understanding of like what training should look like, and how we go to make those corrective measures. And like I said, it's independent of the speed of the drill. It's all the same stuff, just at your skill level. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, you want to make because like what you're saying a little bit different way is if people are just left to their own devices, they don't have to push. They're not going to bring out those issues, but when they're a little bit beyond what's comfortable for them is when they fight the tension, all the issues. So, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I would argue that would be the same for any shooter, right?
right.
You take the world's best shooter when he's uncomfortable, he'll be more likely to violate those principles that
Mhm.
somebody else violates at an uncomfortable pace that's just like drastically a lesser skill.
Right.
So it's the same difference, right? And to get guys to feel comfortable exposing themselves, I expose myself.
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, man, like I haven't arrived. I'll never arrive. And if you're really into this, you'll never arrive either. We just have to be honest and understand that like this is going to get a little messy in the quest for us to figure out, what right looks like.
Yeah. It's a journey without a destination.
That's it, man.
What's the things you look for when assessing a shooting instructor?
A couple things, right? So I think it's dependent upon what I'm trying to learn, right? So we'll just talk about shooting. Um, but if I'm looking at shooting skill, um, one, I want to see that they possess the skill that I'm looking to obtain. Right. So
Okay.
can they do the thing that I want to do?
Okay.
That's number one, right? Then, do they possess the skill to take what they can do and transfer it to me? That is a totally separate thing. There's a lot of guys that are really good at doing shit
Mhm.
that don't know how they do that shit. And I've met plenty of top level shooters,
They're
and
just good, but they
they're,
can't tell you how they're good, but they
they
just
don't know how they. I don't even think they really understand deeply how they're accomplishing it. Some people are just naturally gifted,
they
or
just
even if
have
they're
it.
not
I'm with
naturally
you.
gifted, through time and repetition, they've gotten themselves into a sequence where they're able to execute stuff,
Mhm.
but have lost the process of how that was created. And that does nothing for a student, right? I'm very big on like picking apart the nuances and the little things that we should be paying attention to at this given point,
Mhm.
because that's the process, right? This is what's going to breed success here. I understand that we need several other components to make this all come together, but at this given time, I just want you pay like the one shot return drill, right?
Mhm.
I don't really give a fuck where the first round goes. I'd like it in the black paster, right? But if it doesn't go there, that's not what I'm paying attention to. How does the gun return, right? That's the focus. Forget about what just happened with that first round. Did the gun return? Because the bullet could be complete abortion, but the gun could return clean,
Sure.
right? And it's like at this given point, that's what we're working on, right? So I look for a guy that possesses the skill that I'm looking to obtain. I look for guys that have the ability to uh, break apart those individual things and convey them in a very clear and concise manner that I can easily conceptualize. And then um, for very clean, easy, layman terms vernacular, that's like I can then put into practice.
You don't like the
Um,
medical terms.
no, I just
The
because
myelination, kinesthetic awareness, and whatever else stuff.
yeah, I think early on in my shooting journey, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like we all grew up on like the Magpul dynamic fucking videos and
Of
shit, right?
course.
And like
Yeah. Still
when you
have them
don't know
somewhere.
when you don't know anything, you don't know anything. Like that was enamoring to me. Like I would be lying to say it wasn't.
Of
You know,
course. Rapid
um,
fire shooting and running around to look cool.
yeah, and then like as those guys progressed in their journey, like the vernacular progressed, and like when I watched that stuff, I just with because you don't know what you don't know. Like I've said 100 times, I thought that's what teaching was, right?
I'm not sure those guys ever progressed in their journey. I think they're still at the same place, but continue.
Well,
Sorry, I couldn't
they're
help myself.
no, you're right in the shooting, but like their execution and how they explain stuff became very complicated,
Uh-huh.
right? So I would say like they progressed in how they started to articulate stuff,
Mhm.
and when you haven't been exposed to other stuff, like it sounded very well, like
Sure.
and you're like, wow, man, these guys are really fucking smart,
Yeah.
and there's something to this, and then when you really start to dive in, you realize that it's it's so basic in nature. It's just hard in execution.
Yeah.
So it's very simple.
Simple
Um,
but not easy.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, when I hear that kind of stuff, that kind of turns me off now because of my understanding of what I know about shooting, and I know it doesn't help anybody. It may make you sound more educated and important, but the end result is not for me to like impress you, right? I mean, I'd like to impress you, but like that's not the goal. The goal is to make you better, right?
I agree.
I'd like you to leave happy in class and be like, "Oh, Paul's a good shooter." You
It's
know?
more about the students and less about you as an instructor. I agree with
Yes.
that.
The goal is like, yeah, dude. Like I left there with valuable information, and I have a clear cut pathway that if I follow this and I'm willing to put in the work, I know exactly how to get to my destination.
Mhm.
Now, you don't put in the work, you don't put in the work, right? Like,
Sure.
but you will have a clear, like I believe when you leave one of my classes, you have a clear understanding on where to start and how to progress and how to layer your training correctly and how to slowly build those different skills to
Yeah.
get to the result that you want. And listen, your result that you want is not set by me, right? I see a lot of instructors, man, they do this shit like they tell the consumer what they should want. It's like, bro, like you want to be a national champ. This motherfucker doesn't care about that. And he's not willing to put the effort and time in to do that, right? But what he does care about is X, Y, and Z. Being
Protecting
safe
the
in the
house, being a better police
yeah,
officer, whatever. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Like being good enough to be capable of doing his job, which maybe is just a B class level, right? So you want to impose what you believe your journey is on them. And it's like, no, man, like that's your journey. So I'm not here to put my journey on my students. Uh, my goal is to help them accomplish their journey, whatever that may be, as low as it may be, or as high as it may be, if I'm capable of helping them. Right. And if I don't possess the capability that they're looking for, right, um, direct them to guys that can, right? Like, you want to be a national champ? Dude, I'm not your fucking guy, right? Like, sorry, dude. Like, I will never be one of them. Probably could never be if I wanted to be one of them, right? Like, it would take an immense amount of work. My lifestyle and the things that I'm involved in do not facilitate the amount of energy that would be to be possible, right?
Yeah, you have to change your life.
I'm okay with that. you know.
Yeah,
Also, with competition, like, there's more than just shooting. Like, my pitfalls in competition are not shooting related at all. It's everything else.
sure.
Right? And I think a lot of these guys, they get on there and they're like, "Oh, dude, you didn't shoot enough majors and this and that." It's like, yeah, dude, I'm teaching a practical approach
Yeah,
for a defensive minded person. Yes, this has a lot of competition type stuff, but none of it is about making you a national champion. It is about making you more effective with this platform for what your intended purpose is, none of which is beating Eric Grafel.
yeah.
Now,
No,
listen, I'll also say the caveat, like, if you do accomplish that level, none of that is bad for law enforcement, right?
no, of course not.
But I think there's a diminishing return for like your actual application. And listen, like, you see this, right? You take like Delta guys, right? And I've been around a ton of them. Um, they're good enough shooters. They're not phenomenal shooters. Some of them are, right? Some of them are phenomenal shooters, but I would argue that wasn't developed in the military. That was developed on their own training program, because I've ran into enough of them that they don't all shoot that way, right? So that just like cops, you see some really great cops,
Hmm.
and you see the masses, right? And anyone that's really good in law enforcement, or I would say like in the military, um, it wasn't the work wasn't all done there, right?
No, you'd have to do it on your own time and dry
You
fire, and
have to. You
would
have to
imagine
do it
the
on
weekend and
your
that kind of
own
jump.
time,
Sure.
to do that, right? And that's where a lot of that comes in, and my goal is just to help people for their intended purpose, guide them in the right direction, but also give them realistic expectations. Like, if you're not willing to do X, Y, and Z, you can't expect to get this result. And I'm fine with that. Just be realistic with yourself. Like, this is what it requires to what you want to do.
Setting realistic goals would be another way to
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah. And you can accomplish whatever you want. It's just, are you willing to invest that amount of time? And that's kind of what's great about shooting, particularly shooting itself. It doesn't really require any skill, any God given skill, right? You can be a phenomenal shooter if you're willing to put in the work.
True.
Um, like, I'm not going to go to the NFL ever. Like, just never going to happen, right?
No way. Me
You need
neither.
God given genetics and you also need hard work and stuff, right? But there's a
Sure.
level of genetics that need to be present to do some things like that. If you're talking about just being a really phenomenal top end shooter, you just need to be willing to put in the work. Now, I'm not talking about competitor, I'm talking about shooting. The isolation of, like, I draw this gun, I run this gun hard as fuck, and I hit everything I want. Like,
Sure.
that does not really require God given ability. It does require hard work and to pay attention to the correct processes and to do it correctly, which is lost. And that's kind of the goal too, is like to show people what to pay attention to and what to cut out. Because there's a lot of stuff confusing people's bandwidth
Mhm.
that is counterproductive to their actual journey of what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. All right. Last question. I ask this one to pretty much everyone I interview. You can answer however you want. You could be crazy. Maybe you don't even have an answer. What changes would you make to USPSA if you were king for a day?
Yeah. Super easy answer. Doesn't matter to me
You don't
at
care.
all. Like, whatever the game is, I'll play it.
Okay.
'Cause the goal for the game for me, like I said, like, guys that are heavily invested in, like, being competitors. Like my identity is not in being a competitor. You know, um, I enjoy competition. I believe competition has a ton of value. I
Sure.
compete every month in locals. I will shoot a major match. I'm going to shoot Area 7, I think it is, at SIG Academy.
Okay.
Right. I'm going to shoot that one. So like, like I'll hit like
But they
one or
love
two.
you at SIG Academy right about now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
man.
Proceed.
Totally. A big fanfare there. Right.
Uh-huh.
Um, but like whatever the game and whatever the rules are, like I'll play that game because listen, it's a game, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but it's a game that's good for skill development for what I do in my real life world. It also helps me develop as an instructor. It also helps me, learn different things when presented and stuff that I might not think of presenting, right? Like, a particular target array where you come into position and it's like a really weird port, right? And now I draw into that position, and what do you know? Like the gun didn't index the same way I thought it would, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, because I never draw the gun into a lean like that, right? And now I don't have my dot,
Sure.
right? So like, they're just great opportunities for me to jump into stuff, be presented with different things, and just see what happens. Um, but like to say, to go back to your question, like what would I change? I'm not that emotionally invested in the sport outside of just being happy to participate
Sure.
that I
That's fair
really
enough.
care. And whether it's USPSA or PCSL or Steel Challenge, like um, it's all the same to me. I'll, I'll participate in something, you know, that helps me develop as a shooter and an instructor, and I'll play within the rules the best way that I can. Just full well knowing that like this is a game, and the game is good for me, and I don't really have to agree with everything to still get value out of it. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I know a lot of guys are like, um, they're really into it, right? So like they care more about the nuances. Where like regardless, I believe of the rule sets and what happens, like I'm going to make value out of it
Mhm.
regardless, and that's what I care about. Extrapolating the value out of the match, not like the game itself.
Yeah, and for some people, that's kind of their identity or all they really do or care
Yeah,
about. So
totally. And
it,
and like I don't have a
that's
problem
fine
with that,
too.
but
Yeah,
that's not me. Like so, like I'll play the game. What the rules of the game are, I'll fucking play them. You know,
yeah.
whatever guys come up with the powers to be, I don't take too much. I mean, I listen to the stuff, I see the stuff, right?
Sure.
Some of the stuff makes me laugh. Some of the stuff I think is stupid, and I can't believe happens. But I'm not that emotionally invested where like I will waste any bandwidth or energy into it because all that does is detract from my own progression, and I'm more focused on that
Okay.
and providing a good product to my students. Um, and I can do that without really caring what that is. And if it turns into like it just shoots PCSL, I'll just shoot PCSL.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's it. Sorry, very uneventful answer for you.
No, it was actually, I like that. That was actually a good answer. Well, that's all my questions I got. I appreciate you letting me talk your ear off. If people want to get a hold of you, do you have a preferred method, whether setting up a class or questions or anything like that? Do you like email, DM? What do you prefer?
Yeah, so you can go to I mean probably the easiest thing is probably social media. You can go to my Instagram account, which is Costa Costa_actual. You can DM me on there. If you're looking for the more professional thing, you can go to my website, which is brokenarrowdefense.com, and you can fill out the associated form and send me an email, and I'll answer it that way. Um, Either is fine. Sometimes stuff gets lost in the algorithm though of DMs that come in for like what color underwear am I wearing and all the great questions that you get on social media. You
Even if
know,
it's a legitimate shooting question, a lot of stuff gets sent to spam. It's tough to like
yeah,
see everything. So
yeah. I try to check all the boxes and stuff, but between all the porn spam and everything you get fucking sent in there, I just like deleting it. So like if I scroll down and I don't see anything quick, like that whole thing just gets deleted. Um, but yeah, so if you reach out to me on Instagram and I don't get back to you, then just definitely head over to the website. I don't have an issue getting stuff. At least I haven't. I'm not aware of any issues of me getting stuff sent to my account email wise.
perfect. If he doesn't reply to your email, I'll just put his cell phone number in the
Yeah,
show.
call my cell
You
phone.
can just call him. Preferably like 2 or 3 in the morning. It'd be best.
I'm
But
probably up for work anyway, so it doesn't matter. kind of the way it is.
Too nice of a guy. You'd still like just like, oh, I don't know how you got this number, but here, let me help you.
Hey, try to help you.
You're too nice. Anyway, I appreciate you taking the time. I think this was
Yeah,
good.
man. Oh yeah.
Training group people, if you have questions for Paul, just drop it below in the comments and I'll just have him back on and we'll do this again. Anyway,
Oh
this
yeah.
was good. I appreciate
Look
it.
forward to it. Thanks, Joel.